Strap in, boys, we're getting a little technical today. Okay, so this video was initially planned to be sort of a rant, sort of a vent, sort of a kind of just frustration at Nintendo for everything that's happened in the past couple of weeks. I'm not gonna go into full details, but if you want more context, just go on Twitter and look up Nintendo, you'll find enough. But instead of just making a video that's basically just me whining, I thought I would instead take this opportunity to try to teach people a few things. So today, I'm gonna teach you at home how to run GameCube games on your computer. Now, don't worry, you don't need a super powerful gaming rig like I do. However, it helps. The main reason I'm doing this is because, I don't care what Nintendo thinks, and people like their games, and god damn it, I want more people to play these great games that are locked on the GameCube and Wii, and nobody can play them anymore, because you can't really buy them anymore unless you track down a physical copy, and God help you if you try to do that. So here are all of the required materials. You need a computer and a controller. That's it. I'm not kidding. Emulators these days are so robust and so user-friendly that you can use whatever you want on these things and it'll work just fine. But like, let's be honest, if you just want to use a regular controller to play GameCube games, hey, that's fine, you can go ahead and do that. But there are a few optional things that if you want to go through the trouble of getting, you can make your GameCube experience on PC as authentic as possible. I mean, obviously the first step is getting one of these USB to GameCube port adapters. And don't worry, you only need to plug in the dark cable to make it work properly. I'm not sure what this is for, but like, you only need one USB port. I have the Wii U version, but you don't need to track down this one specifically. This one's a little more rare, but if you really want one right now, you can look up a company called Mayflash. They've made their own GameCube to USB adapter, and it works perfectly on PC, so there's no issues there. And like, you got the adapter, so throw in a GameCube controller. I mean, why not? It helps make the games more authentic. But let's say you're like me, a crazy person, and you think to yourself, no, I don't want just GameCube games, I also want Wii games. Well, if you get a Wiimote, you can obviously connect that to PC via Bluetooth. And if your computer doesn't have Bluetooth, then get a little USB Bluetooth dongle adapter. But let's say you're even crazier than that, and you already own all the games, but you don't want to go through the hassle of downloading them off the internet. Well, there's an option for you. All you gotta do is get a Nintendo Wii that has a working disk drive and an SD card. That's right, we're going even further this tutorial. I'm gonna show you how to install Homebrew on a Nintendo Wii and rip your GameCube games to your system to put on your computer at home. This tutorial is intended for people with a little bit of technical know-how. You don't need to know a whole lot, but you know, you're gonna need to know a little bit. For example, the minimum specs of Dolphin on the Dolphin website, which there's a link down in the description for, they say you need a processor with at least 3 GHz and dual core. And if you don't know what that means, just get a processor that's newer than 2008. As for graphics, literally anything that supports DirectX 11. I personally recommend any computer from 2010, 2011 and onward. That'll do you just fine. It won't run the fastest and you won't be able to bump up the resolution a whole lot, but you'll be able to run them, and that's the point of this. Now, this may look like a lot, but let's be real, all you need to get started is just a controller and a semi-recent PC. And I want to stress that. I don't want to overwhelm you all with a bunch of information and say like, oh, you need all of this stuff to get the most out of your experience. And you don't need any of this. If you want to just play games normally, you can just grab any controller that supports Windows and just throw it on your computer and connect it via Dolphin, and I'll show you how to do that. No, don't worry. We're gonna start off real basic. I'm gonna switch over to my computer and I'll show you exactly what you need to just get Dolphin running. Okay, so the main thing you need to start off with is you need to actually download Dolphin. And don't worry, I'll have a link to the Dolphin website and specifically to the download page to make this as easy as possible for you. And you can download a Windows version or a Mac version or even the Android version if you really want. And just go through the installation process, and once you have it installed, you'll be able to boot into Dolphin. Now, my version of Dolphin has all my game dumps on it, and actually, all these games I own physically. I've dumped all these games myself, barring like 1 or 2 exceptions because of limited availability. So, I'm gonna be completely genuine with you. Running games on Dolphin is super easy. Like, you just have the file right here on your computer. I'll show you how to get these files in a quick second, but just for the sake of example, I'm just gonna drag F-Zero GX from here onto Dolphin, and there it is. It's just running. It's that easy. And there it is. For most people, this is all you need to do. You don't need to go into any settings and change any visual options or processing options or any of that. You just click on the game and it boots up. That's how user-friendly Dolphin is. One of the big things that I really want to show you is the paths option. A path is basically where the files are located in your drive. So as you can see, I have a few paths set up. I have my R drives right here, and I have my G drive. So in terms of my organizational skills, it's a bit nuts. I have my retro games drive right here, which is my R drive. Haha, get it. And inside my R drive, I just have a folder labeled Gamecube. And so when you go into the Gamecube folder, you'll see all of my Gamecube ISOs. And for the Wii path, I have this Wii folder right here where you can see all of the Wii games that I've dumped. Again, we'll go into exactly where to get them and exactly how to dump games, but for right now, I just want to keep things very simple. The only other option you'll need to know about when getting into Dolphin for the first time is the controller menu. And right here in the section labeled Gamecube controllers, there are 4 port options. And right next to them are drop-down menus. In these drop-down menus, you're basically telling Dolphin what's plugged into a virtual Gamecube port. And it can be just a regular X input controller, like an Xbox controller, or the 8-bit I was showing earlier, to the Gamecube adapter, to a steering wheel, the DK bongos, or a keyboard. What? For the sake of simplicity, I will go with just standard controller. And before you can actually play a game, you should go into the configure menu right here on the right. Now, this screen might look like a jumbled mess, but trust me, it makes sense. And so right here in the device drop-down menu, you're going to be able to pick exactly which controller Dolphin registers. So you can go with a keyboard, and you can play GameCube games with a keyboard and mouse if you really wanted to. But for now, I'm just going to select the 8-bit, which my computer for some reason is registering as a D input device. But hey, it'll work, so we're going to go ahead and move on. I've already got my controller preset, so basically all you need to do is, let's say you're looking at your controller, all you gotta do is click right here where it says A. It'll wait for you to press a button, and just press what you want to be A. And I've already got A, B, X, Y, I've got the trigger buttons over here, I've got Z set, I've got start select, the D-pad is set down there, I've got my control sticks all set up and calibrated. Everything's already pre-done, but it's really easy to go in and set your controls if you just take the time to do it. One thing I should point out, if you're not familiar with controllers, you might not be familiar with what's known as a dead zone. A dead zone is basically a zone of tilt where the control stick points, where it's not actually registering any movements. So you can see in the little tab here, I'm tilting the control stick very slightly, and you can tell where it's being tilted exactly by the gray dot in the center. But once I move the gray dot out of the center, a red dot starts appearing. The red dot is what the emulator actually reads as where the control stick is read. So I have to move the control stick pretty far out if I want to start registering any kind of a movement. If you want to get real granular with it, you can go ahead and mess with it and change the dead zone value right here. I have it set to 20%, but you can set it to like 10% just to start off. I very much discourage people from going with a 0% dead zone. That's going to make your games really jittery and kind of a mess. Also, if your controller is like an Xbox 360 controller, it has analog triggers, so the emulator will be able to read exactly how much of the triggers you're actually pressing down before it registers a full press. You can set that by doing the L and R analog triggers right here. You can also set dead zones for your triggers, but that's kind of an up-to-you style feature. Threshold is also how far you need to pull the trigger before it registers what's known as a full press. Because on the inside of GameCube triggers, there's actually a little button that you need to fully click the trigger down before it registers as, quote, a full press. The threshold is basically an emulation of the GameCube's analog triggers. And after you have all that set up, hey, let's just go back to my GameCube folder, let's drag F-Zero GX back on, and there we go, I'm playing the game. And here we go, I'm playing F-Zero GX. Just like nothing ever happened. And currently I'm rendering the game at 1080p, I'll explain what that means here in a minute, but you can tell that it looks really, really good. A lot of GameCube games hold up really, really well if you render them at the right resolution. For games like F-Zero GX or Mario Sunshine or like Animal Crossing, they still hold up really well. And basically that's all you need to get started. And if you want to stop the video here and get started on playing GameCube games, go ahead. If you already have a way to get GameCube game ISOs, basically game files, you can stop the video, right? Go out and have fun. Go play Melee. Go get Slippy and get that online. This video will not go into downloading and installing Slippy, There are plenty of tutorials out there for that already. I mainly want to get the door open for you to let you see what paths are available to you, like with Slippy. Okay, that was all well and good, but remember, if you really want to get authentic, you can use actual GameCube hardware on Dolphin. All you need is this little adapter and you're off to the races. Okay, back on the computer, we can go into the controller menu again, and remember that little drop-down menu for the port number? You go into port 1 and select a GameCube adapter for Wii, and there you go, that's it. You can go into the configure menu and enable things like rumble or simulate DK bongos, but like, whatever, you can do whatever you want. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Just make sure your GameCube controller is plugged into the leftmost port and you're playing whatever game you want on GameCube controllers on Dolphin. It's literally that easy. And here we go, we're just playing F-Zero GX again, same emulator, same everything, but this time I'm running with an actual legitimate GameCube controller. There's no input lag, there's no anything. I'm playing essentially a GameCube on my computer. And I want to stress again that it really is this easy. Dolphin's one of those emulators where you can just kind of plug and play. You don't need to go into all of the menu settings and change any graphics and resolution options. However, it does help to run at 1080p. Okay, that was all well and good, but I'm gonna delve a little bit into the graphics options. I'm just gonna go over a few options that are gonna be important going forward. So, in this tab, there are a few things that you need to keep an eye on. One of the main things is right here. Make sure the VSync box is tagged. The games are gonna run at a smoother frame rate. That's basically all you need to know if you don't know what VSync is. Just make sure this box is ticked and you'll be just fine. You can also enable or disable full screen right here, and hey, that's an up to you kind of thing. If you want to do it, go ahead. If not, hey, that's fine too. Now right here in the enhancements window, this is the main one that I want to focus on, internal resolution. So normally, the GameCube outputs at 640 by 528. This is the exact resolution every single GameCube game originally renders out on actual legitimate hardware. However, if your computer is a little more powerful, if you have a computer from like 2012, 2013 or forward, I'd recommend playing around and making them run right here, 3 times native resolution for 1080p. Now, if you're insane and have 1440p or 4K monitors, hey, try it, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. But for most normal people, I just recommend 1080p. And I want to keep in mind that when you mouse over an option, down here at the bottom, it'll give a detailed description on exactly what that feature does. And if you're unsure, it'll just tell you, hey, if unsure, select none. If I go down to widescreen hack, if unsure, leave this unchecked. Scaled EBF copy, I don't know what it does, but if you're unsure, just leave it checked. Dolphin is extremely user-friendly. And that's the main point I want to drive home. Even if you're a newbie and you don't know anything about computers and you don't know anything what's going on, you can still have a good experience on Dolphin. You just need to put in a little bit of time. Okay, we went over how amazing Dolphin is, but let's remember Dolphin is a Wii emulator first and foremost. It can run any Wii game you want just as well as any GameCube game. But let's say you don't want to download games off the internet, but you actually own the game physically. Well, there is a way to take the physical disc and dump the files onto your computer for use in emulators. What you're gonna need for this is a Wii console, an SD card reader, a Wiimote, and if you want to play Wii games on PC, you're gonna need a sensor bar, but specifically a sensor bar that ends in a USB port. But for the tutorial we're doing right now, you're gonna need just a regular sensor bar that terminates in one of these little orange nubs that Nintendo loves their proprietary plug solutions and all that stuff, so you're gonna need a real one. So in order to get started with dumping GameCube games and Wii games to your computer for archival purposes and using them on Dolphin, you're gonna need a few programs to download. As soon as you have your Wii console, your Wiimote, and an SD card that is less than 32 gigabytes in size, you're off to the races. Before you can start dumping games, you need to install something on your Wii called the Homebrew channel. Homebrew is essentially just custom software written for the Wii. You can get Homebrew on a bunch of devices, but for now we're focusing specifically on the Wii. You can do a whole lot more with the Homebrew channel, but for right now we're just worried about dumping games. So first, in order to get the Homebrew channel running on your Wii, you're gonna need to go to a website called please.hackme.com. After that, you're going to want to open up wii.guide/hbb.html. These are all going to be links that are underneath the video in the description, so you can just follow along with the links. And then later, we'll also be downloading a program called CleanRip, and we'll install that in just a second. But for now, let's focus on the Homebrew channel. So when you go to please.hackme.com, the website's going to ask you for a little bit of information. It'll ask you what version of the console you're running. So you need to be on firmware version 4.3, and I'll show you how to check that in just a sec. You'll need your Wii's MAC address, which I'll show you exactly how to get in a second, and then you'll need to click I'm Not a Robot. So real quick, let's jump into the Wii and figure out how to get all this information. Okay, so now that we're in the Wii, we need to go to the Wii options menu, and once we're in there, we go to Wii settings. A couple of things, your Wii is going to need access to the internet, so you need to make sure that you have either a wired connection or a wireless connection set up here on your Wii, and you can set that up here in the Internet tab. You can go over here to connection settings and hit your connections and make sure they all work. I'm gonna go ahead and test mine real quick, because I'm actually not sure if mine works or not. You're also going to need to make sure that your Wii is on version 4.3, and the little letter on the end shows you which region you're in. For me, I'm in the United States, so it has a little U next to it. And inside the Internet tab, you're going to need to go here to console information. Now, I can't show you exactly what my MAC address is because that's very sensitive information. You need to make sure that nobody knows what your MAC address is because it can be used for malicious things. Just make sure no one knows what it is. Now we're gonna head back over here to the Letterbomb website, and down here you'll be able to type in your MAC address. So again, make sure no one knows what this is. It's actually quite important. And once you have your MAC address all typed in, just go ahead and click I'm Not a Robot, and Letterbomb's gonna ask you to cut the red wire or the blue wire. It doesn't really matter, you can click whatever. And then once you have that downloaded, you can hit download. Next, I'm gonna show you how to get the Homebrew Browser. Now, you don't need this to start ripping games and using them on Dolphin, but I'm gonna show you how to do it anyway. Just like, if you have a little bit of curiosity, you can go in and essentially browse custom software for your Wii. And then finally, we're gonna go here and we're gonna download the application CleanRip. CleanRip is what we need to start ripping games off of our Wii. Right here, there's a download link, just go ahead and click that, and it'll send you to a GitHub page. Click right here, cleanrip.zip, go ahead and hit save as. I'm just gonna save it to the desktop. All right, now we have our 4 essential files. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna extract the files here. I use 7-zip to browse zipped files and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure Windows has a pre-built extraction tool, and I know Mac has one also. I just use 7-zip personally. You can probably just get by and use the extract all feature just that comes with Windows. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go into the Letterbomb zip file. We're basically just gonna take all of these files and just copy them directly onto our SD card. I've already got all these files on here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip, but this is exactly how you're gonna do it. Now that you have that, you need to go in and you need to make a folder that's just labeled apps. There's just lowercase letters APPS, just very simple. And inside apps, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the files in your Homebrew Browser zipped folder, and you're just gonna drag and drop. Then you're gonna do the exact same thing for CleanRip. Go into the CleanRip archive, double-click on Apps right here, and take this CleanRip folder and put it directly into the Apps folder on your SD card. I've already got it installed, so I'm just gonna go ahead and hit skip. And that's all we need to do right now with the SD card. We're gonna go ahead and just put the SD card back into the Nintendo Wii, and we'll go from there. So now that we have the SD card placed back inside your Wii, make sure that the date is actually set to the correct date. I ran into that problem earlier where my Wii didn't have the correct date and it wasn't showing up properly, so make sure it's, make sure the date is set properly. You're gonna go into the Wii message board down here in the bottom right, and inside this menu, you're gonna go either back one day or forward one day, and give it a second to load, because right here is the Letterbomb. So we're gonna go ahead and click on the Letterbomb right now with our pointer. And then this happens. Congratulations, you bricked your Wii. No, I'm kidding. Your Wii is not bricked. This is just what Letterbomb is doing. So right here we have a page that says, if you paid for this software, you've been scammed. Just download from the links that I've provided to you. Don't worry about that. After the screen stays up for a few seconds, you're gonna go ahead and hit 1 to continue, and then it'll bring you to the HackMe installer. All you need to know is that the Homebrew channel can be installed. So if you see that, you're gonna be just fine. Go ahead and hit continue. And then you're gonna go ahead and right here to the very top and hit install the Homebrew channel. You'll hit that button, it'll install the Homebrew channel. I've already got it installed, so I'm not gonna show it off. And then you're gonna go ahead and hit exit. So once you hit exit, it'll boot you directly into the Homebrew menu, like this. I have a few more apps installed because I've been hacking this Wii for quite a while, so just ignore everything. The only things that you're going to see on here are the CleanRip app and the Homebrew Browser app. And real quick, I'm going to go into here just to show you what's up. So you just have to wait for the network to initialize. So what that means is you need to have an internet connection to access the Homebrew Browser. I mean, if you don't have an internet connection, how are you going to access apps? So at the bottom, it's going to say cannot open aborting, but like it's still going to work. It just says that. So here in the Homebrew Browser, you can see a bunch of stuff that we got here to download. We got demos of games people have made. We got emulators. So if you really wanted to, you can put in like Super Nintendo emulators or Game Boy Advance emulators or N64, GBA, ColecoVision, Vectrex. Bro, Neo Geo Pocket Color. There's some really cool stuff here on the Homebrew Browser. And again, this isn't required to run games on Dolphin. Maybe you'll get more into Homebrew on the Wii, maybe you won't. But I just want to leave this little bit here, just in case you're interested. And if you want to exit, just go ahead and hit the home button. It'll bring up this menu, and then you hit return to loader. Okay, now we're finally going to get into the meat and potatoes of this. You're going to use the D-pad or your Wii pointer, whatever you want, to go here to the CleanRip app. And here is the CleanRip UI. Now, you need to make sure you have your actual GameCube game on hand. You're going to need a USB drive to dump the GameCube games to. Once you have your USB stick plugged into one of the rear USB ports on your Wii, you can go ahead and hit A. Now on here, when it says enable checksum calculations, you can just go ahead and hit no. Right here, we have a USB device plugged into the back of our Wii, so we're going to go ahead and hit USB. And then right here, so for the USB drive that I have installed, we have it formatted to NTFS, but it's only 32 gigabytes in size. If you plan on doing large dumps of your entire collection, you're going to need to format a drive in the FAT format, not FAT32, FAT. There's a lot of technicalities with that, and honestly, it's too much for this tutorial, so right now we're just going to stick with NTFS. And so now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and hit A to continue. Pocket drive mounted, 1 TFS volume mounted. There you go, perfect. It found our USB drive. And then it's going to say insert a GameCube or Wii disc. We're going to go ahead and hit A to continue. And then it's going to start the disc up. Is this an unlicensed Datel disc? No, it is not. This is a real copy of Melee. Remember settings. So again, this is only for if you're doing large dumps one after another. We're just going to go ahead and hit no. And there you go. It's going to take about 12 minutes to rip. And at this point, you can just leave your Wii to the side, and it's going to dump your copy of Melee just perfectly. I'll see you guys in about 12 minutes. Okay, so that actually didn't take too long. When the rip is actually running, it turns your Wiimote off, so just turn it back on, and then you can hit either A to do another rip if you want, or B to exit. I'm just gonna hit B to exit. And there you go, it'll dump you right back into the Homebrew channel. So, let's take out that USB drive that we had and put that back into the computer. So inside of the USB drive that we had for the dumping process, we have a couple of files. We have a BCA file, an ISO file, and a TXT file. Text file basically just shows you all the interesting little things you need to know, like the fact that it's Super Smash Bros. Melee and 1.02. So basically, this info is going to be really useful if you're dumping a bunch of games in unison, because you know what name it is. So you can go ahead and go right here to GALEO1, and you can just rename that to Super Smash Bros. Melee. There you go. Done. And there you go. You got a Super Smash Bros. Melee.iso. Let's go ahead and open up Dolphin and just run it. See how it runs. And there you go. We got Melee. And so that's exactly how to dump GameCube games off of your existing hardware onto your virtual GameCube on your PC. Now, but hang on a minute. We also need to go over how to dump Wii games, because those are an entirely different beast. So now we're back into CleanRip with a Wii disc put inside of our console. We're gonna go ahead and hit continue. We're not gonna enable checksum calculations because that's dumb. We need to make sure that we click the same menu options, so we have a back USB, so we're gonna hit USB. And we have the USB drive formatted to NTFS. It found our drive, and we have our game inserted, and we have a couple more options with this. Wii discs are made differently to GameCube discs since they're bigger and they have more data on them. I'm just going to explain these three options real quick. Dual layer, 98% of the time you're going to say no. So some Wii games are made on what's known as a dual layer disc. Now, that means that the Wii disc can hold twice as much data, but that also means that CleanRip is going to have to go through a different process to get all the game files. But right now I'm ripping the new Play Control version of Pikmin 1, because of course I am. And Pikmin 1 is not a dual-layer game. But how do you know if your game is dual-layer or not? Well, on the Dolphin website, you can go and find a very handy list of every single dual-layer game in existence. And there aren't many. So 98% of the time, you're not going to have dual-layer enabled. So we're gonna go ahead and leave that at no. With chunk size, you're gonna scroll down with the D-pad and then hit right until you go to max. And then down one again to new device per chunk, you're gonna hit no. And these are the options you're gonna be using for 98% of your Wii dumps. If you happen to be dumping a game that is a dual layer disc, like let's say Xenoblade Chronicles or Metroid Prime Trilogy, you're gonna go ahead and enable yes on dual layer. But since we're doing Pikmin, it's gonna be a no. After we have these settings set up exactly how we wanted, we're gonna go ahead and hit A to continue. And then if you want to remember the settings or not, doesn't matter, hit no. Now, because it's a Wii game, it's gonna take a little bit longer to dump, since Wii games generally are much bigger than Gamecube games. So I'll see you when the rip is done. Now that actually didn't take as long as I thought it would, but we got it done, so we're gonna go ahead and hit B to exit. Now we're gonna take our USB drive and go back to the PC. Real quick, when I was initially planning out this tutorial, I was intending that you needed HJSplit to join files together, but it seems like Wii games don't need that anymore with the current version of CleanRip. So, as a baseline example, I think this is clean. If you run into any issues personally about games being dumped in two separate files, I'll leave a separate tutorial down in the description that I've personally used to join files together myself. Now, in order to get Wii Remotes running on your virtual Wii in Dolphin, all you need to do is just go down here and say emulate the Wii's Bluetooth adapter in the controller settings panel. And then make sure that Wii Remote 1 is set to Real Wii Remote. And while this window's open, go ahead and hold the 1 and 2 button for a couple seconds on your Wiimote that you have in your hand. Oh, and make sure continuous scanning is enabled right here on the bottom. And then after a while, your Wii Remote will buzz and you have Player 1. Here, let me go ahead and show it on camera. Here we go, we got Player 1. We got Player 1 Wii Remote on our virtual Wii on Dolphin. I ran into issues earlier where the Pikmin game I dumped earlier was dumping into one specific file, and so I decided, I'm gonna go ahead and dump a different game that I was gonna dump anyway. I dumped Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Here's the thing, that also dumped into one file, so let's see how well this runs.
Tatsunoko vs. Capcom.
And there it is, we got Tatsunoko on PC. Like, yeah, it's pretty in-depth to get all this stuff running properly and to dump the games yourself. But once you do, it's a very, very rewarding thing to be able to sit back and look at your copy of Tatsunoko vs. Capcom and then just be able to play it on your computer. And you have that file forever because it's your file. You can go ahead and save that to an external hard drive or create a NAS or maybe have a separate external hard drive just stored somewhere, and you can have all these files keeping basically forever. So this was an extremely long and drawn out video, but it needed to be. I wanted to show everyone just how simple it is to get GameCube and Wii games running on your computer at home. Nintendo can't take these games away from us. Nobody can take these games away from us. If you own the physical copies, no one can take that away from you, and you should have the freedom to put those games on your computer and use whenever you want. That's the point of this video. Is I want to give everyone who's watching this the ability to take these games off of the discs and be able to play them whenever and wherever they want. And if you've stuck around for this whole video and you're following this as a tutorial, hey, I greatly appreciate it. If you actually are going through these steps, hey, go down into the comments section and tell me how you're doing. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment as well. I'll be down there and I'll answer any and all questions that are gonna be down there for this process. I'll have links to every program, every download link, every little thing that I've talked about in this video. I will have links to official sources of it. This is probably the most in-depth video I've made to date. The only one I can think of that went more in-depth was probably GameCube Special way long ago, but I think this is my best work so far, so I'm really happy with how this is all turning out. The recording process, it has taken me about 3 hours to record all this footage, but again, I think this was all worth it in the end. If I can allow more people to play their GameCube and Wii games whenever and wherever they want, hey, that's an excellent thing in my book.